A month ago, my husband and I took a leap of faith and bought our first home. It felt surreal. We both work modest starter jobs and had spent years scraping and saving to afford a little house in the suburbs. Our budget wasn't extravagant, so we knew it wouldn't be a dream home, but this place had its own kind of magic. It wasn't perfect, but the large sunlit rooms carried a charm that spoke to us. We were smitten. The day we got the keys, we moved everything in. Boxes upon boxes of clothes, tools and kitchenware. Our lives, neatly packed away in cardboard, stacked high in the living room. With no furniture yet, we threw our mattress onto the floor, and that's where we slept for the first week. It wasn't glamorous, but we were so happy. Lying there in the middle of our slightly chaotic, half-empty house, I couldn't help but smile. It was ours. After a week of living like squatters in our own home, we began the slow process of unpacking. Piece by piece, we built our little nest. We assembled closets before we could hang up clothes, found spots for the essentials, and gradually turned the chaos into something warm and cosy. A place to call home. One afternoon, I came home early and decided to tackle the last few lingering boxes. These were the things we rarely used: Christmas decorations, some mismatched flower pots, and other odds and ends. Our house had a spacious cellar, perfect for storing items like this, so I carried the boxes downstairs and began sorting them onto shelves. The cellar was cool and dimly lit, with bare concrete walls that carried an oddly comforting sense of permanence. When I was done, I stepped back and admired my work. For the first time since moving in, everything felt settled. I was content. But just as I turned to head upstairs, a sound stopped me in my tracks. It was faint but distinct, a muffled thump that seemed to come from behind the wall. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Slowly, I turned, staring at the cold, unyielding concrete. The noise came again. Thump. Dull. Hollow. My heart began to race. I inched closer to the wall, my pulse roaring in my ears. I pressed my ear to the cold surface, straining to hear. The sound was unmistakable, a deliberate thumping, followed by what I could only describe as a scrape. A deep, resonant sound, as though something large was dragging itself along the other side of the wall. But that made no sense. There shouldn't have been anything behind that wall. Panic overtook me. I bolted up the stairs, my feet barely touching the steps, and slammed the cellar door shut behind me. When my husband came home, I told him everything. He knows me, knows I'm not the type to overreact or invent wild stories. I could see the doubt in his eyes, but he reassured me, saying he believed me. To his credit, he didn't dismiss me outright. Together, we went back to the basement. The air felt heavier this time, as though the walls themselves were watching us. I pointed to the spot where I'd heard the sound, and my husband approached cautiously. We stood there for what felt like an eternity, waiting. Just as he turned to leave, the sound returned, a loud, deliberate thump, followed by the unmistakable scraping noise. The colour drained from his face. He grabbed my hand and we bolted upstairs. In the kitchen, we sat in stunned silence. "There's nothing back there," he said finally, his voice barely a whisper. There can't be. But I could see the fear in his eyes. He had heard it too. We debated late into the night about what to do. Breaking into the wall wasn't an option. It was a supporting structure, and tampering with it could compromise the house. From the outside, there was no access either. The cellar's walls were buried beneath our living room. In the end, we made a decision. We would do nothing. It's been 3 months since that night. We've tried to adjust, to ignore the questions gnawing at the edges of our minds. but neither of us has gone back down to the cellar. Not once. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I lie awake and wonder, what's behind that wall? And is it still there?